Hello, students. Have you ever really thought about political parties? I mean, beyond just seeing them on the news. Are they necessary, or could we do without them? Well, in this explainer, we're going to figure out the answer to a really important question from your civics syllabus. Why do we actually need political parties?
So, here's what we're going to cover today. First, we'll imagine a world without any parties at all. Then, we'll get a really clear definition of what a political party is. After that, we'll dive into the 7 key jobs they do, explore the crucial role of the opposition, and finally, I'll give you a simple guide to help you write the perfect answer on this topic in your exams.
All right, let's begin. I want you to use your imagination for a moment. Picture a democracy, but a very different one. A country where there are absolutely no political parties. No Congress, no BJP, no regional parties, nothing. What do you think that would be like?
Let's make it real. Could a huge, diverse country like ours, like India, actually function without parties? With so many people, so many different opinions, how would anything get done? Who would we even vote for? And who would be responsible for running the country? Let's think about the problems that would pop up almost immediately.
The problems would be huge. First of all, every single candidate in an election would be independent. They couldn't make big promises for the whole country, like building new highways or changing the education system. Why not? Because they'd only be accountable to their own little area, their constituency. A government might get formed, sure, but it would be so unstable. Everyone would just be looking out for their local interests. So who would be responsible for India as a whole? The answer is no one. It would be a total mess with zero accountability.
And this is exactly where political parties come into the picture. They are the solution to this big, messy problem of a partyless democracy. They bring order to the chaos.
So what is a political party, really? Let's look at the definition. It's basically a team, a group of people who share similar ideas about how the country should be run. And their main goal is to contest elections, win, and then hold power in the government so they can implement their policies for the good of the society.
And every party is made up of 3 main parts. At the top, you have the leaders, who make the big decisions. Then you have the active members. These are the people doing the groundwork, organizing events. And at the base, you have the followers. That's all the citizens who support the party's ideas and vote for them. Okay, now we get to the most important part of this lesson. What do political parties actually do? What are their jobs, or as we call them, their functions? Let's go through 7 key functions one by one.
The first function, and the most obvious one, is that parties contest elections. In most democracies, the main contest is between candidates put up by different political parties. The parties choose their candidates, and we, the voters, choose between them. Next, parties put forward different policies and programs. You must have heard of an election manifesto, right? It's like a promise list. Each party creates one, telling us, the voters, what they'll do if they win. This gives us a clear choice between different ideas for the country's future. Now think about this. In a country with more than 100 core people, there are millions of different opinions on everything. It's impossible to listen to every single one. That's where parties help. As this quote says, they take all those many opinions and group them into a few basic choices. This makes democracy much simpler for us. The third function is that parties play a huge role in making laws for the country. Now, we know laws are formally passed in the legislature, like our parliament. But most of the members there belong to a political party, and they usually vote together, according to their party's direction. This ensures that laws reflect the promises they made to the people. And here's a big one. Parties form and run governments. So when a party wins the election, it gets to form the government. The party leaders then pick ministers to run different departments, like finance, defense, and education, and they start working to implement their policies. So, what happens to the parties that lose the election? Do they just go home? Absolutely not. They have a very important job: to be the opposition. Their role is to criticize the government for its failures or wrong policies. They keep the ruling party on its toes. We'll talk a little more about this in a moment. Another important role is that parties shape public opinion. They raise and highlight issues that matter to the people. With thousands of members and activists all over the country, they can launch movements and campaigns to bring attention to certain problems.
And this picture is a perfect example of that. You see these party activists taking out a rally on the streets. This is how they make sure an issue is seen and heard by everyone, and how they put pressure on the government to do something about it. And the final function we'll discuss is that parties provide people access to government machinery and welfare schemes. For an ordinary citizen, it can be quite difficult to go to a government office.
but it's often much easier to approach a local party leader for help, isn't it? Look at this image. It shows that function perfectly. Here you have a minister, a party leader, directly giving benefits to citizens. Parties act as a bridge, or a link, between ordinary people and the government.
Okay, now let's go back to that fifth function we mentioned, the role of the opposition. It's so important that it deserves its own section. Because you see, a healthy democracy needs the parties that lose just as much as it needs the party that wins.
So on one side, you have the ruling party. They run the show. They make the big decisions. But on the other side, you have the opposition. Their job is to be a kind of watchdog. They voice different opinions, they criticize the government's failures, and they make sure the ruling party doesn't become too powerful. They keep them accountable to us, the people.
This is a really interesting point. Some people say that local elections, like in our village panchayats, don't have parties. But if you look closely, you'll see that the village often splits into groups or factions. Each faction puts up its own list of candidates, its panel, and they campaign just like parties do. It just goes to show that whenever there's democracy, groups like parties tend to form naturally.
All right, we have covered quite a lot, so let's wrap this up with a quick recap. And I'll also give you a simple guide for how to answer questions on this topic in your exams.
Okay, listen carefully. If you get a long answer question on the necessity of political parties, here is your 4-step formula for a perfect answer. Step 1, start by explaining why we need them. Use that world without parties example we discussed. Step 2, list and explain at least 5 of the functions we covered today. Step 3, for each function, give a simple explanation and an easy example. And finally, Step 4, conclude with a strong statement saying that political parties are necessary for a representative democracy to work.
So, to sum it all up, what's the most important thing to remember? It's this. Modern representative democracy simply cannot function without political parties. They are the ones who bring different opinions together to form a stable government. They give us choices, they keep the government accountable, and they connect us, the ordinary citizens, to the government. So the next time you hear about politics, remember the very important work these parties are doing behind the scenes. I hope this explainer was helpful for you.